and welcome to episode 116 of the Heartland Knits podcast. My name is Vicki, but you can find me as Heartland Knits on Ravelry and Instagram, and now Periscope. And today is Sunday, September 13th, 2015. Thank you all for joining me for another week of knitting. I have been knitting quite a bit this week, but I did take one day out and I went down to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool Festival. It's a couple hour drive, so I didn't do any knitting during that time when I was gone, and then I was really tired when I got home, so I didn't really knit much on Friday, but I have lots of new knitting to show you. So let's start out with what's on my needles, and I wanted to show you one of the projects that I started last month that I've been working on. It kind of really captured my attention this week, so I kind of wanted to get through one section. And a lot of the projects that I cast on this big group are things that I've talked about wanting to knit, or I've showed you, oh, I want to knit this sometime, and that's kind of why I cast them all on at once, because then they would actually get started. Because what happens a lot of times is I think, oh, I want to knit that, and then, when I finish, I want to knit this shawl when I finish the one I'm working on, and then when that happens, something new kind of jumps up and distracts me, so I never get things cast on that I'm thinking I wanted to do. So this was a pattern that I wanted to cast on last year. I'm going to do this lacy sort of Faroese shawl. This was in the Wool Gathering from September 2014, and I bought yarn specifically to do it, and so I thought I'm gonna cast it on and get going, and I did. So the yarn that I'm using is it's a Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and the color is Atlantic. So it's this beautiful, beautiful turquoisey color. I am just completely enthralled and in love with the color. So I started at the bottom is just plain stockinette, or just plain garter, and I worked on that on and off a little bit in August, and then I started the lace section, and then just kind of every night I wanted to knit a few rows of it. So this is as far as I am. I'm at the top of the lace section, and so now the rest will be all garter. I love Kid Silk Haze. It could be one of those yarns that if you could only have one yarn, this might be one that I would want to only knit with. I know there's a lot of you out there who really don't like it, and that's okay, because that means there's more of it for me. They call this, I've heard it called either crack silk haze or kid silk crack, because if you love it, you really love it and you want to knit with it. It's, to me, it's like super soft, and it's baby mohair. So, and this has silk, it's baby mohair and silk. And I am doing this on size 7 needles, which are 4.5 millimeter. It's a Faroese shawl, so it's got this, decreasing on each side. And then before the lace section started, I was decreasing here, and then there'll be like a center panel. You can tell, like right here between these two markers, I'll be decreasing on on one side of the markers, so that there'll be a center panel, and then there'll be additional shaping within the garter to kind of make it so that it will sit on your shoulders. I love Faroese shawls because it's different than just a plain triangle. They've got shaping in it so that you can have them on your shoulders and they just stay there. It's not like a plain triangle. I'm kind of just going right according to pattern, using her numbers and everything. And one thing that I did is, since it's a bottom-up shawl, you cast on a lot of stitches, and you have to sort of have a stretchy cast on. And I know there are some of them out there. I don't particularly like any of them. I think mostly they just look a little messy. So what I like to do in a case like that is I'll do a provisional cast on. So this is a piece of scrap yarn in there. And then at the end, I'll come along and do probably a sewn bind off, probably Elizabeth's sewn bind off, because that looks really pretty with garter. I just find then you can get it as stretchy as you want, and you don't have to worry, you know, oh, is that going to stretch enough? And it looks still like neat and tidy instead of some of those messy stretchy cast-ons. So yeah, so it's just been fun to have this little bit of lace, and I love this color so much. So I am down to, I had 3 skeins of the Kid Silk Haze, and I'm down to the last one. I kind of just opened up the last one to start it. So I still have quite a bit to do, but I know that it decreases, you know, pretty rapidly just from other Faroese shawls that I've done. You know, once you get kind of halfway up, it does decrease rapidly. I hope I don't run out. I bought this last year when I went up to Door County in the fall, and I stopped at this the yarn shop where I bought it in August, because I went up to Door County and I got cherries, and I know that they still had some of this color. I don't know if it's the same dye lot, but I'm kind of guessing it is. So I do want to make sure that I kind of finish that up. So I will probably, now that I'm in the garter, I'll probably, you know, do a little bit, you know, try to get to it so that I can finish that up, because I love it. My new project that I just cast on yesterday is something that I have thought about knitting for a long time. And how I decided to do it is, I saw one of my friends at knitting camp again. She knit this, and so I got to see it, and it's, so I'll show you what it is. It's called Sam the Ram, and it's this little, it's not little, it's actually quite big. It's like a foot wide and tall, but it's got like a sheep, and he's got wearing like an Aran kind of fleece. The design is by Rita O'Connell, and it is, I'm not sure, I didn't look up on Ravelry, but it's published by 3 Kittens. It's a yarn shop up in the Twin Cities. So anyway, this pattern was goes back to 1993. So I don't know if I knew about it quite that far back, but I know it's been at least 15 years or so that I have seen this. And I've heard people say, you know, oh, it was so fun to knit. And it just, I think it's so cute, but I never knit it because I'm not much of a toy knitter. I know I've talked about that before. And I always thought, well, I could, you know, there's only so much time that you have to knit, and I would want to be knitting sweaters or garments or something useful instead of just a sheep. So anyway, my friend, I saw it at camp, and she likes to knit a lot of the same kind of things that I like to knit, and she said it was really fun to knit. So then I knew right away, I was like, okay, I'm going to get Sam. So you can buy just the pattern. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if, like 3 Kittens, if on Ravelry, if you look the pattern up, if they have a downloadable version or you have to like order it from the store. I bought this as a kit from Blackberry Ridge Woolen Mill. They always have a booth at the fiber events kind of in this area. They're a woolen mill down in southern Wisconsin. And so the kit was, I thought about just getting the pattern and then using hand spun, but really the whole kit was $22, and you got the pattern and you got the yarn. And so then I didn't have to go digging around trying to find hand spun, and like maybe hand spun that didn't come with like a big, like a sweater's quantity that I wouldn't want to break up just to knit Sam or something. So the wool that you get in the kit, you get a skein of this weight. It's what they spin there. It's like a sport weight, and it's pretty soft. I can't remember. I should have asked her what breed of sheep, but it's pretty soft, but it's still mill spun yarn. And then you get a smaller skein of like a brown for his face and stuff. And so I started, I couldn't wait to cast on. So you start with his little face. His face is hard to see on the picture because it's got a dark background. And so I've cast on, and let's see. So this will be grafted to this, and I think this is how it goes. I think this is the top of his forehead, and there's his, so that's the start of his, that's his little face. And you'll gather this together for his nose, and then pick up stitches to start. So it has an interesting construction, plus it has all of these different Aran cabled pattern, patterned. So I'm looking forward to working on him. And then just maybe I'll quickly show the sweater that I showed you that I was working on last week. I finished the body, so I've got that here, and this is the garland necklace yoke sweater by Meg Swanson. So I finished the body, and I already blocked it. So I'm making mine a steeked cardigan, and you can see I've got a piece of scrap yarn going down. So I will do a crochet steek on the other side of that. So I already blocked it because I wanted to make sure that I had the length right. I don't know if you have this problem, but whenever I'm knitting a sweater kind of at this time of year, it feels sometimes summery, but you're making the sweater, it's going to really be like a fall winter kind of sweater. And then I have the reverse problem when in the winter, when it feels like winter, and I'm making a sweater that's going to be more for spring and summer. But anyway, when I'm making a sweater like now, I tend to make them shorter than I like to wear them in the winter. So usually, like, if I'm just wearing a skirt, I don't really wear shorts ever, but like I usually wear just like a skirt that's a little bit above my knees, not like a mini skirt or anything. But Friday at Sheep and Wool was the first day I had worn jeans or pants of any kind since like sometime early May. So I don't know, it's, you'll try this, try it on and say, oh, I think that's the right length. But proportionally, when I'm wearing a skirt, I want it a little bit shorter than when I'm wearing jeans, then I want it longer. So a couple times I've had sweaters where I just think, why did I make this short? And I thought, oh, that was the first sweater I made in the like early fall. And so I think that's it, because then the opposite side in the spring, when I'm trying on stuff, I think, oh, I'm never going to want something that short. But then I really do, when I want to wear it with a dress or something, I want it to be shorter. So my Loey cardigan, which I know I've shown on the podcast, it's another yoke sweater by Meg Swanson. I knit that, maybe 5 years ago, and I actually ended up making it, I think it was too long, so I had to do, before I cut the steek, I shortened it. So I did, took the whole like bottom edging off, ripped out rows, and then grafted the whole thing back on, which works just fine. And you could do that too if you wanted to add on some stitches. You could do that too. But with this yarn, this is unspun Icelandic, so it's like a pencil roving. To try to graft that, you have to sort of put some twist in. It works to graft it because I've done, like underneath the arms or whatever. You have to sort of just with the sewing up needle, you have to twist it a little bit to insert some twist into it so that it doesn't all drift apart when you're like pulling the needle through. So if you did that, there would be a definite line that, well, that one row has twist in it and the rest of them don't. So that's a long story of why I kind of blocked out the body to make sure I had the length right before, because I know I don't want to be doing any sort of calculating. So my Loey sweater is my sort of the one I follow, because I know I like the length of it, and I like, wearing it in the winter, so the length of it's right. So then I finished the body and blocked it, and then just started the sleeve. I've got, this little bit, and there you can see the cable-y pattern a little bit better, I think. So just have a couple inches into it, and working on, and working slowly, a little bit at a time, working on that. So then the last thing that I worked on this week was something that I started right after camp. It was a mitten that, the sheep mittens that I showed you I had started, and I finished one, so it's a half finished project. So I'm going to use that for off the needles, because it's one half of it is off the needles. So these are the sheep mittens by Jorrit Lindvik, and so this is the right one. So there's the ram, and there's the back side of him. So on the other mitten this will be on the front of it, and then the ewe's head will be on the palm side, so that when you look across at them, you'll see a whole sheep. But these were like super fun to knit. So this yarn, this batch of handspun, which is Cori Angora, felt just a little bit thinner than the batch that I'd used for those green and white kind of leaf pattern mittens. So I'm not sure. I might go ahead and do a liner for the inside of these, and also because of where the thumb is located, right in here, like at the base of it, there is a long float, and I didn't, carry any of them. I mean, I didn't trap any of them, so I don't know. I mean, I know eventually it will, felt down, and I might do the whole sort of shocking hot to cold thing with these mittens also, just to see if that improves that. But I might end up lining them, because for that reason, and also just because they feel thinner and more open. So I don't want them, to be like, cold. But they are super fun, and they were, fun to work on. The solid weight for the top of the mitten and for the thumb are worked actually double strand, which is something I tend to do anytime I'm doing color work for Fair Isles or the bohos or whatever. If there's a solid row, I don't like to, have that one row be thinner than all the rest. And especially for mittens, you wouldn't want like the thumb especially, and the top of the mitten to be thinner than all the rest, because then it wouldn't be as warm. So in spinning, I did finish spinning the fiber that I showed you last week. It was from Hobblety Hoy. It was a merino tencel mix called East Asia, and I'm just going to hold it up. It's still a little damp. I finished plying it last night and then soaked it, so it's only had overnight. But so this is the yarn that I got. It's a lace weight. Let's see if I can get it to look a little bit better. It's a lace weight. I ended up with 730 yards, and it's a little bit, maybe not even quite, it's probably about that colors, but and I just sort of spun it as it came. So there's lots of barber poling, but they're all kind of similar colors, oranges and reds, and there was like a pink. It did bleed a little when I soaked it. Not horrible, but I know red is a hard thing to get set, but it did bleed a little, so I'm not sure. I mean, and it's still damp, so I'm not sure. But they're all in that same like family. It wasn't like there were white sections that are now pink. Those were kind of a lighter peachier, pinkier, little areas in the fiber. So I'm happy with how it came out. I don't have any plans really for it, but it was nice to get it. I finished spinning it kind of early in the week, and then it took a while to ply, because that was pretty, a lot of yards, and plying is not my favorite thing to do. So I haven't really started anything new. I have some new fiber to show you. So let's just launch into show and tell about, because I did go to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool on Friday, and it was fun. I got to see, several people that are like Instagram friends, and I've, known from like other retreats and stuff. So it's always fun to catch up with them, and it's kind of relaxing to go on the Friday. It's not as busy as it is on Saturday, and though it seemed busier than other Fridays when I've been there. But kind of the same vendors have been there for years and years, so it's fun to see them and talk to them and catch up. And so one of those was the person I bought this first fiber that I'm going to show you. I have so much fiber. I really don't need to buy any. I mean, but I thought, I've been spinning, so I need to buy a little bit. And actually I had to really sort of say no more, because at Sheep and Wool, more than when I was at Stitches, and maybe it was just that the day how I was feeling or something, I felt like, oh, I could buy that, or I want to buy that. I kind of said, just stick to what the cash that you brought, and I'll tell you. So anyway, this fiber is from River's Edge Fiber Arts. She changed the name a little bit, so I had to read it. And the dyer of this is Carol Larson, and she had these really fun like bundles of fiber. So if you look at it on this side, it's got all these kind of oranges and reds, and like it looks kind of fall, I think, like fall, and apple orchards and stuff. And then you switch it around this way, and it's kind of spring. It's like lavenders and pinks and yellows. It all goes together. It's just how it got like bundled up, but I thought it's so pretty. And this is 4 ounces. It's a Falkland. Color is called Ponderosa. And I just fell in love with it. It's not super duper soft. It's Falkland. It's not super duper soft, but it's not like, you know, rough or anything. So and she told me it's dyed, um, you know, the colors go one into the other, but it's dyed so that the beginning and the end are this, you know, same. So if you spun it end to end and then we're going to apply it on itself, you would end up with a solid like gradient like this. And I thought that would be cool. But I think even more what I want to do with this is try to spin a fat single. Sort of like to come out with a yarn, sort of like that big Swedish gradient that I used to knit my knitting camp hat, you know, so that it would go from color to color but be kind of a thick single. So I think that might be, because I've been spinning so many of these just like plain sort of simple, you know, yarns, and this weight is sort of my fallback, you know, kind of normal. So it's good to like switch things up and try something different, and I think this would be really fun, and it would be really pretty to make a you know, a big thick like gradient like that. And do, you know, because it's got matching ends, I could do like you know, maybe matching mittens or something. Anyway, so there is that. So then another booth that I almost always buy something from when I am at a festival that she's at is from Sharon from Morning Sun Fiber Barn, because she's the nicest lady, and she brings some really wonderful, luscious luxury fibers. So she had this one and that one. It's just going to look sort of creamy white, and this is 40% camel, 40% merino, and 20% silk. It is so soft, like a cloud. So I had to get, and I love this kind of creamy white color in it. So I always get something like that from her. So this year was no different. And then I had planned, I planned on getting a couple things. One of the things that I kind of wanted, I knew I wanted to get, the person didn't have, and it kind of, I don't know. So anyway, so I didn't get to get that. And then I was gonna buy a sweater's worth of yarn from Sun Valley Fibers. And so I went and I was like kind of, you know, still deciding between colors. So at Stitches Midwest, I took some time and kind of studied all the colors of Jeanette's yarn. I knew I wanted the BFL DK, and kind of had it narrowed down to a couple. And I knew I would be seeing her at Sheep and Wool, and I thought I'll decide and I'll get some there. And that was my intention. So I was like, looked at them all again and stuff. And then we were gonna, you know, I was meeting people. We were gonna go eat lunch and stuff. And like sometimes that kind of thing, I need to like just be alone to decide. And so I was doing kind of one more pass around you know, there's 2 barns that have, you know, booths. And so I was doing my like one last rounds. And so I was going to come back around, and that was going to be my last purchase. So kind of at like the one end of, I ran into a couple people and I was talking to them, and then, you know, one of them went, oh, I have to get home. And I looked at my watch and went, oh my gosh, I should too. And I just walked out the door completely, like not even thinking, you didn't get the yarn. Like in my head, I sort of decided. So in my head, I guess I thought I had. So now I have to order the yarn. Which would not be a problem because, you know, it's not that far away, and, you know, it's not like I don't have anything to knit. So I had a couple, somebody asked about show notes. There is a blog associated with the podcast. It's heartlandknits.blogspot.com. And if you go back to the really, really early episodes, there are some show notes for those, like from a couple years ago, 3 years ago. I don't do show notes anymore. And it's one of those things where I had to decide, this has got to be fun. And, pulling all that stuff, I'm not going to say I don't have time for it, because time is infinite, and you have to do, what you have to make time for the things that you want to do. But, so I kind of allot myself so much time for the podcast, for, recording it and for editing it. And because I like to, edit it down and, put the little segment things in. And I've started to, and I did it last week and I'll do it again. When I'm showing you a project, I want to put the name of the project and the designer's name kind of down at the bottom. And so please let me know if you find that helpful, just because I would like to give credit. And if people have a hard time understanding my sort of Midwestern dialect, at least then it will have the name of the pattern, and they can research it further, look for it on Ravelry or whatever. So let me know if you find that useful. And I also, last week, I started on the blog, the heartlandknits.blogspot.com, I do always embed the YouTube video, so you can go there to watch it. And then last week, I embedded that YouTube video in the thread in the Ravelry group, which is Friends of Heartland Knits. So let me know if you find that useful. I knew that there were a few podcasters that were doing that, and I thought, well, if that would make it easier for people to find, and that also might make me remember to go and actually start that thread, because I don't know why that one would always kind of I would get distracted. I'd get the thing uploaded and then think, I'm done. And so, tell me if that's useful, or if you would, just rather watch it on iTunes or YouTube directly, or whatever. So anyway, it's on iTunes. You can find it embedded in the podcast, or in the blog or the Ravelry group, or you can watch it directly from YouTube, which the channel is Heartland Knits, 2 words, and you can subscribe there to get immediate notice that it's been uploaded. And I think that is everything. I'm sure there's stuff that I'm forgetting, but this will be long enough anyway. So thank you all so much for watching. And until I see you next week, from my heart to yours, happy knitting.